Welcome back to the Bridgeworks video series. Today we're here at the bank. People are coming and going from the bank. They're making deposits. They're dropping off their checks. They're coming here to borrow money, to draw down on the credit that they've stored up. The bank works like that. It's a system of making deposits, of paying down, of seeing what you have earned. You're seeing what you owe other people. And really, a lot of life is like that. Beyond just finances, we tend to get out what we put in. We have the opportunity to store up goodwill with other people, to make deposits in some sense of effort and time. And we hope in the end, those things will come back to us. We'll be able to draw down on those. Some people call this karma, right? Doing the right thing leads to blessings and good things in the end. Put good in, get good back in the end. But grace, as Paul talks about it in the Bible, does not work like this. In the book of Romans, the Apostle Paul is working to help the church there in Rome move beyond thinking that life is all about law keeping, about works, about doing the right thing, and moving them instead to a place of faith, in trusting that Jesus Christ has done the right thing for them, and that having this faith, a faith that is the way that activates God's grace in some sense, is the only way to be made right before God. And in order to make this point, Paul turns to Exhibit A, to a story everybody in Rome knew, the story of Abraham. Yeah, Abraham, that Abraham, Father Abraham, the one who had many sons and daughters. I am one of them, and so are you. So let's just praise the Lord. Right arm, left arm, turn around, and so on. Father Abraham, you may recall, was originally called Abram. But God changed his name to Abraham as a reflection on his future as the father of many nations. Not just one nation, not just the nation of Israel, but many nations. And Paul wants everybody in Rome to understand, so everybody meaning both the Jews and the Gentiles, that Abraham is their spiritual father. Now, what does it mean to follow then in the footsteps of your spiritual father? Well, Paul is very interested in what it says in Genesis 15, verse 6, that Abraham believed God and that this faith was credited to him as righteousness. Now, that word credit in Greek is a banking word. It's a finance word. It can also be translated calculated. And Abraham's faith, which was credited to him as righteousness, means to have a righteousness that did not inherently belong to Abraham. He didn't own it. He didn't earn it. He didn't deserve it. In other words, Abraham was able to receive benefits that he himself had not stored up. He could come and make a withdrawal before ever making a deposit. Now, that's where Paul wants us to look at Abraham's story specifically. And there are two important points to make note of. The first is that Abraham was considered righteous by God, and that righteousness did not come from obedience to the law. How do we know that for sure? Well, we know that for sure because the law did not come until Moses, which was 430 years after Abraham lived. 4 centuries after his belief was credited by righteousness. It didn't come until Mount Sinai. Secondly, Paul wants the Romans to understand that Abraham was credited as righteous through faith before one specific work, and that was the work of circumcision. That was the action that Abraham took later. He was circumcised, the Bible details, in a story recorded in Genesis chapter 17. Again, 15 comes before 17. He is credited as righteous before he is circumcised. So Paul wants both Jews and Gentiles to understand that righteousness cannot come as the result of circumcision. Circumcision is a sign that righteousness has been given to a person by God. So this is not about effort. Living with God is not about your performance. It's not about a point or merit-based system. It's noted, in fact, by Paul that God even provides good things to those who are wicked. Now, if that doesn't make sense to you, that God would provide things like righteousness to wicked people, well, then you're right where you're supposed to be, because grace doesn't make sense. Paul contrasts this with the idea of getting a paycheck. If you put in 1 week's work and your boss comes to you and says, out of the goodness of my heart, out of sheer generosity, I'm providing you with this check. You think he's crazy because you earned that. You provided that work, and that's not grace. Grace is your boss coming to you and saying, here's your paycheck for your week's worth, and here is $1,000 on top of it. You didn't earn it. That comes as an act of grace from your boss. That's what God does. He does not give to us what we've earned or deserved. He credits us on the basis of faith in Jesus Christ. Now, did Abraham do many good things? Of course, he did many wonderful things. He was a kind and generous man and a brave man. But those works were the fruit of his faith. They were not a form of earned favor from God. I love how the old song goes. It's a song about the faith of our fathers. It says, faith of our fathers, we will love both friend and foe in all of our strife, and preach thee true as love knows how by kindly words and virtuous life. Faith of our fathers, holy faith, we will be true to thee till death. We are all sons and daughters, Paul says, of Father Abraham. So let's live like he lived, as a person of faith, not as a person who decided or tried to be right with God by balancing a spiritual checkbook.